on a quiet street in the small town of Aberdeen, New South Wales. Nothing on the surface suggested that one of the most horrifying crimes in Australian history was about to be discovered. It was the kind of town where people knew each other, where routines were predictable, and where a missed day at work was enough to raise concern. That concern would soon uncover a scene so disturbing that even seasoned police officers struggled to comprehend it. This is the true story of Katherine Knight. Katherine Mary Knight was born in 1955 in Tenterfield, New South Wales. From an early age, her life was shaped by instability, trauma, and exposure to violence. Those who knew her later described her as volatile, capable of switching from calm to explosive anger without warning. As an adult, Knight worked at an abattoir. It was a job that required physical strength and emotional detachment, and she was known for being exceptionally skilled with knives. Colleagues described her as efficient, but also intimidating. Her personal relationships followed a disturbing pattern. Every serious relationship in Katherine Knight's life involved violence. Partners reported being threatened, attacked, or terrorized. In several cases, police intervention was required. Yet despite repeated warnings and escalating behavior, Knight was never permanently removed from society. Each relationship ended, but each time the violence intensified. In the late 1990s, Knight began a relationship with John Charles Thomas Price, a well-known man in the local community. Price was a father of 3 children and was described by friends as hardworking and well-liked. From the outside, their relationship appeared functional, but behind closed doors, it was anything but. Knight was obsessively controlling. Arguments frequently escalated into physical violence. At one point, Price fled his own home out of fear for his life. Friends and co-workers knew the relationship was dangerous. Eventually, Price attempted to end it. He asked Knight to leave his house and sought a restraining order. But despite his fear, he later allowed her to return, a decision that would prove fatal. On the evening of February 28, 2000, John Price went to bed in his home, believing the worst of the conflict had passed. It hadn't. In the early hours of the morning, Katherine Knight attacked him as he slept. The assault was sudden, frenzied, and merciless. Price had no opportunity to escape. What followed was not only murder, but an act of extreme post-mortem violence that shocked the nation. Knight did not flee the scene. She remained in the house for hours, carrying out acts that investigators later described as calculated and deeply disturbing. She then attempted to take her own life using pills and alcohol, losing consciousness. The next day, John Price failed to show up for work. Co-workers were immediately alarmed. He had never missed a shift without notice. Police were called to perform a welfare check. When officers entered the home, they were met with a crime scene unlike anything they had seen before. The brutality, the staging, and the deliberate nature of the acts left investigators shaken. Katherine Knight was found alive, but unconscious. She was arrested once she regained consciousness and charged with murder. The story quickly spread across Australia, horrifying the public and dominating headlines. During the trial, the court heard extensive evidence of Knight's violent past and her long history of threatening behavior. Psychological evaluations were presented, but the prosecution argued that the crime was intentional, deliberate, and premeditated. Knight eventually pleaded guilty. In 2001, she was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, the harshest sentence available under Australian law. She became the first woman in Australian history to receive such a sentence. The judge described the crime as one of the worst examples of murder the court had ever encountered. Katherine Knight remains incarcerated to this day. The case forced Australia to confront uncomfortable truths about domestic violence, warning signs that were ignored, and how repeated violent behavior can escalate when left unchecked. For many, the tragedy of John Price's death was compounded by the knowledge that it could have been prevented. The story of Katherine Knight is not just about one horrific crime. It is about patterns of violence, failures of intervention, and the devastating cost of ignoring danger until it is too late.